Ladies and gentlemen, time for the first installment of Thursday Coast for the new year. Haven't you missed us? Haven't you missed Marcos? And I pray that all of you, including him, are having a happy new year and had a blessed holiday season in spite of it all. Um, Harriet Tubman used Christmas to liberate people.
Mm.
She would go and do raids on Christmas Eve and Christmas. So maybe we ought to think like that. We want to liberate ourselves from this fascism and authoritarianism. So think about Christmas not just being about Santa Claus, but even the Holy Family, like Harriet Tubman, had to flee to escape from King Herod. So we should think about it also in that revolutionary and liberation context. Having said that, my brother's here. He is the founder of the largest online progressive community, Daily Coast, and we welcome him back again on Daily Coast. First of all, man, hope your holidays were blessed. And you know what I thought about? Daily Coast, it's itself. How's it doing, and what resolutions do you have for Daily Coast in 2026? What are we gonna do in 2026, man?
2026 is going to be a big year for us. We are launching our new platform in in March, April.
Okay.
And so and then that'll allow us to also get an app done as well. So we're gonna we're gonna could have done this years ago, but we're finally getting around to it. And I think the app is going to be very, very important. Particularly, it's kind of amazing, Mark, how little I use the web itself anymore. Like it's like the apps are really where it's all the action is at. So there's going to be a Daily Coast app this year. But I also, this is the year we take back the House and the Senate. So I'm really excited just from a coverage standpoint. It's a lot more fun to write stories right now, and it's a lot more fun to read the stories because the world it's shit. Trump is worse than anybody could have ever imagined. We warned people, and it's even worse than what we thought it was going to be. And I mean, Europeans are sending troops to Greenland to protect it. So this is this is where we're sort of at. But also, the Republican Party's fallen apart. MAGAism is turning on itself. Donald Trump is tanking not just himself, but he's tanking his entire party and his entire movement with his inability to focus on anything that actually matters to people. Nobody wants Greenland except him. Nobody wanted to demolish the East Wing of the White House, just him. Nobody wanted tariffs, just him. So there's at least a payoff right now, and there's a resolution. Last year 2025, really it was shock and awe, right? Like he just threw everything at us, and I gotta say, Mark, people were demoralized, right? We could see it in our traffic stats, and just I'm not gonna lie, if this wasn't my job, I would have taken 2025 off from politics. I would have said, you know what, like I love my kids, I love my family. The Bears are doing well. Like the Cubs did well. I'm gonna focus on the things that are positive in my life, and just we couldn't do that. But a lot of people got a chance to do that, and that's okay. I'm glad. I'm happy for them. So
you and I did a little bit, Marcos. We didn't divorce, but I think we were more measured.
Yeah.
In our intake, which was healthy because we didn't miss nothing. And they're so predictable. Y'all, I think if Marcos and I stopped watching TV for 3 or 4 days and y'all called and quizzed us about what happened and what he did, we probably could say what he did because it'd be like Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, when he just was on Jeopardy and he kept repeating it because he just does the same thing. And we know what it's going to be. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but I mean, if I read a headline that says Donald Trump was racist against Somalis, I don't need to read the story. I know, okay, great. Like join the club of everybody else he's been racist against.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing that deep dive. You're right. I'm a little unhealthy on my doom scrolling around ICE agents. Like it's a little bit much. I'm an immigrant, so this hits me pretty hard. But this is different now because now we're the polling right now. Republicans are in worse shape than they were in 2018 when Democrats won 40 some seats in the House took the Senate, right? It is bleak for Republicans right now. The polling is absolutely brutal. According to Gallup's latest poll from this week, in the fourth quarter of last year, Democrats had a 48-40 advantage in partisan affiliation. 48-40. If you're talking 8 to 10 points, 6 points, like it's going to be a wipeout. We're going to take the Senate. Like the Senate should not be in play. The Senate is in play. Today, I'd still say that Republicans are favored in the Senate, but it's in play. So there's a difference, Mark, between having to read and consume the news and just be like, oh my God, Trump did another horrible thing today. Like, can you believe it? And now we're like, every horrible thing Trump has done, the American people are repelled by it. Every election we've had, Democrats have dramatically outperformed, often by double digits. And guess what? We got November coming up, and Republicans and Donald Trump don't have a solution to get their ship back on track because Donald Trump is utterly incapable of doing the things that they need to do to be able to win. So you saw his affordability tour. He went off and ranted about Greenland. Like he cannot focus on the things that people care about. He won on a fluke because people believed him when he said that he was going to lower prices on day one.
Right.
He can't even pretend to care about that, Mark.
Right.
And people notice. People notice. His numbers are worse now than they ever were during his first term.
Yeah. It's bad, and you're right. He can't focus. It's really clinical, and I think one of the most clinical things we've seen in the past 24 hours. He wants to invoke the Insurrection Act now.
Yeah.
And he pardoned the insurrectionists.
Yep.
On J6.
Oh.
I mean, if that isn't revelatory to people, I don't know what is.
I mean, him saying that it was justified for ICE to murder an American citizen in her car because she was disrespectful to law enforcement. Now that's a new standard. It's a death penalty to be disrespectful to law enforcement. When obviously we know what we saw on January 6th and how he pardoned everybody, and what was it? Hundreds of policemen and Capitol Hill security personnel were hurt during that insurrection, and they're going to cry about being disrespectful to law enforcement. I mean, they're fascist, Mark. I mean, we've always used that word, and maybe at some point there was some hyperbole to it, but there isn't anymore.
Yeah,
he is fascist. And the fact that, it gets me. It's like we used to be like, why did Germans follow Hitler? Why did Germans do the things that Hitler asked them to do? That's crazy. Why? And we always had these theories and these psychological experiments where, there's this famous experiment where you have people in lab coats pretend, asking people to shock other people. And because they're in lab coats, there's authority. And, that's why they do it. Like there's all these reasons that people used to try to justify why Germans followed Hitler. Now we know they're just people who are freaking fascists, and they are happy to be thugs.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'd love to see, Mark, Maryland, there's a Maryland state delegate who has legislation that would ban anybody who's ever worked for ICE from working in Maryland law enforcement.
Good.
We need to see that in every blue state. We need to see that expanded, not just to law enforcement, but to any government position. Because the lack of judgment required to do what they're doing and to be okay with it, and to go back to work. I mean, you see the videos, Mark. They're going into restaurants and everybody's yelling in schools, and people are yelling at them to get out. Like to walk into a place where you so clearly you're not wanted. Everybody hates you, and you think, yeah, this is what I want to do. Mark, we don't need those people anywhere near public service.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. It's very problematic. And so now, as you've written, there's quite possibly an interest in abolishing ICE, is there not?
Yeah, it's dramatic. I mean, at Civics, and by the way, Civics now lives at a organization called Murmurations, which is owned by Emma Bloomberg. It's an activist organization. So Civics is no longer with Daily Kos, but they're still doing a really cool work. that we built at Daily Kos. Civic shows that when we were asking a year ago about abolishing ICE, it was like 12% of people agreed. Now it's in the mid 40s, and it's still not a majority position. And it's not just civics, because Gallup, was it Gallup? Who just did a poll this week that asked about it? No, it was YouGov did a poll asking about abolish ICE, and it was 44 said yes and 46 said no. So it's still not the majority position, but Mark, it went from like nothing to close to half of Americans, and the more they see, the more those numbers go up, because they're sharply increasing upward in the last few weeks. People are seeing the videos and they don't like it, Mark.
Yeah.
They don't like murderous thugs wearing masks. And we've said this before, but in the movies, it's the bad guys who wear the masks. It's stormtroopers and Cobra Commander and G.I. Joe. And like the villains don't want to be seen. If you feel that you need to hide your identities because you are the villain in this storyline, and they're okay with it.
Yeah. And Renee Good, and we had people from Minneapolis on this week and people from LA. Renee Good created the opportunity to publicize Keith Porter, who an ICE agent killed at New Year's Eve in LA. He, people go out sometimes on New Year's Eve and 4th of July and fire guns in the air. Off-duty ICE agent living in the same apartment building as Keith Porter. No one knew he was there. No one knew that it was an ICE agent living there because they don't reveal their identity and their faces are covered. The guy, Keith's outside shooting a gun. He's shooting in the air. Whatever you feel about that, that was it. That's all he did. This off-duty ICE agent goes in and puts on his gear to go outside and kill Keith Porter. So, just like the guy with Renee Good. And so you have another Viola Liuzzo situation. I forget the young lady's name in Charlottesville. Remember who the car ran over. And I'm just going to be clear, y'all. Those of you who are women, and white women in particular, who voted for him again and are still confused, or your family members did, come on now. And he does not care. That's not like he's saying, oh, this is a constituency that has supported me. Trump is justifying her death. And we've seen that from every angle. That was cold-blooded. Yeah. So I'm not surprised, and I would suspect people would want to rethink this whole ICE foolishness and these masked marauders. And I'll tell you something else. What happened last night in Minneapolis, and the mayor told people to go home. But what the mayor didn't say, which he should have said, and he must know this, I don't know why he didn't say it, maybe he forgot it momentarily, was that the people out there really causing a lot of trouble were likely provocateurs sent in by Trump. That's what they do. That's what they do. So normally the average people, we saw it in Ferguson with some of the provocateurs there. I'll never get Martin Luther King III got to Ferguson. He pulled me aside. He said, Mark, how is it that it's scripted? Every night at 11 o'clock, a group of people who seem to be provocateurs and the police and the press show up on the same corner every night at 11 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? So we know what this is, folks. And so I would hope people are there. So you said it's not a majority yet, but it's.
No, but there's a clear, dramatic majority that agree that ICE has gone too far, that agree that ICE should be shrunk, maybe not eliminated, but shrunk, that they are being hired without sufficient training, that American citizens are being arrested and deported. Like they see this. So the one caveat is that I think there's still a subset of people who are like, well, we need something to like get rid of the criminal aliens. Like nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying coddle undocumented immigrants that are criminals, that are true criminals. Not you're in this country, you're a criminal mentality that Trump has. But if you're actually committing crimes, not misdemeanors, but crimes, yeah, no, by all means. You don't need ICE to do that, though.
Yeah.
That's what police is for.
Yeah. Right. That's what ought to happen.
And you can have Border Patrol handle those duties of the extradition part of the moving them out of the country. You don't need ICE. There's no room. And if one thing Trump has done, and Mark, we've talked about this before, but I'm going to be looking at the Democratic field for president. I'm going to be looking for those candidates that talk about how they're going to use the powers that Trump has created for the presidency to start fixing things. And one of the things that Trump has done, and Supreme Court greenlit, is that you can as president, you can dismantle a federal agency even if Congress has authorized it. Seems crazy. But no, they said it's fine for Trump. Democrats need to do that with ICE. And then they can transfer the law enforcement part to another agency.
Mm.
ICE itself and everybody who works in it. Again, we have a president. You can just fire everybody.
Right.
It don't matter if there's unions or not. Like, you can just fire everybody. Okay, great. All of ICE, wholesale, dismantle that whole thing, and then blacklist everybody who's worked there.
And dare the court to strike it down. They might, but dare them to do it. So the Gallup poll you mentioned. So actually, that was. Tell us more about that. The liberal is not as bad of a word.
Oh yeah.
Because it was so. I mean, it had become such a pejorative thanks to right wing propaganda and Fox News, y'all. That's why we had to come up with terms like progressive, because it's liberal no more. And that's sad. We lost. We've lost the cachet and the moral authority over our own identification of ourselves. So progressive was supposed to be better, but now they've made that a dirty word too. Liberal. Gallup survey finds dramatic gains for Democrats, and for the word liberal, a label has been demonized for decades. The top line result is familiar. Americans who identify as independent continue to outnumber those who call themselves Democrats or Republicans, as has long been the case. Though that distinction is mostly meaningless. The number of true independents, people don't lean toward either party, is small, just 10%, and then they tend to be the least politically engaged. Those of you who've been listening to Marcos now for years know how we feel about those who call themselves independents. Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents now outnumber Republicans and Republican leaners by 5 percentage points, 47 to 42%. A year ago, Republicans held a narrow edge, 46 to 45. So Americans, here's something else. At the same time, something else important is happening. Despite the rise in people calling themselves independents, fewer Americans are identifying as moderate. Instead, more people are comfortable calling themselves liberal. Now, just bear with me, folks. We need to understand this. In 1996, at the low point for the label liberal, just 16% of Americans identify as liberal. Today, that number stands at 28%, a third. Meanwhile, the share of Americans identifying as conservatives, generally stuck in the high 30s to low 40s for decades, has slipped to 35%. Among self-identified Democrats, the shift is even more dramatic. A record 59% now identify as liberal. Republicans, for their part, have aggressively purged moderates from their coalition, with conservatives now dominating their party by a lopsided 77 to 20%. Gallup's conclusion is straightforward. Negative evaluations of a president's performance tend to push a subset of voters, especially independents with weaker partisan attachments, toward the opposition party. So the percentage of Americans identifying as liberal is at a 50-year high. Let's go. Why not? Let's stop playing around. Let's be true to who we are. It's not a dirty word. It's beautiful.
And again, it's an upward trend, and it doesn't seem to be abating anytime soon. I think Trump is really bringing home. I think a big part of that, and this Gallup poll didn't break it down. I'm sure they have the data. I just didn't publish it. I bet you a big chunk of that is young people who we've seen other polling that shows dramatic decline in Republican support amongst young people. They bought into the bullshit from their like influencers. Like they weren't like sentient during the first Trump administration, right? So their formative years for a lot of these younger voters was during COVID, when they got screwed by COVID, right? They lost, friends in school and graduations and sporting events. I mean, it was tough to be a kid, in the high school, junior high and high school. It's tough for anybody in the pandemic, but kids, that was her formative idea. So you had a whole generation of influencers, these broadcasters, basically telling them that that was all the fault of tyrannical liberalism. They made you wear a mask and they didn't let you go to school. And so that resonated to a subset of those young people. And Trump pretty much ran even with young people.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
gone.
yeah,
That's gone,
yeah,
man. They're seeing what republicanism actually looks like. They don't like it.
yeah, yeah. No, they don't. And I think we're even finding um young young men. I've been seeing there've been stories about young men
Yeah.
leaving Trump and leaving the party, which is very important
Hmm.
because young white men at that
Yeah.
who could be coming in. Now I'm not sure the reasons why. Um, and then I don't know, are any of these polls measuring the impact of the Epstein scandal? Because I think he really underestimates the seriousness with which people take that.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. You have people like Joe Rogan who have been railing against the ICE raids, and he was particularly harsh. I think it was yesterday. He went on an extended rant about how un-American it was and how he couldn't see this coming. And we're like, well, we told you, but okay. I mean, you didn't see it coming because you willfully refused to listen. But okay, I'm glad he's saying the things he is. I think that has an impact. I mean, in fact, there's a couple of these right wing male influencers, and I don't think they're right wing in the sense that they're explicitly political. They just, when they talked about politics, right? They would be pro Republican, pro Trump. But like Joe Rogan's not a political show. He'll talk about all sorts of random
Mhm.
stuff. But when he talked about politics, it was right wing. And I think a lot of these influencers are like that, and they're kind of horrified. I think the ICE rates are having a ginormous impact. Um, I know that the White House demolition has had some impact. Like that actually moved some numbers. It just, people are confused, and then there's just the general generic refusal by Trump and his party to focus on affordability stuff.
Mm.
It's real, and he promised it. And all I you guys may think I'm full of crap and it's just Democratic spin. I'll tell you what. Go to any Donald Trump posting on Truth Social, on his right wing social media platform, anywhere where he talks about, where he says prices are lower, in every single comment from his supporters
Mm.
are saying, "Sir," they always say, "Sir, I voted for you 3 times. I support you, but you're getting bad information because in Indiana, gas is up, or in Ohio, groceries are up, or I can't afford to pay for this, or my drugs have gotten more expensive, or now I had to drop my insurance." Like, it is universal. Not a single person is like, "Right on." Everything else, it's sycophants. But if he says anything about affordability, and now I've said this before, his core supporters still don't blame him. They'll say things like, "You're getting bad information. Your people aren't telling you what's happening." Like, they act like Trump wants to lower prices. He's just being ill served by his cabinet, by his.
Right.
But that's just like strongest supporters who will never abandon Trump. But even they can't go along with it. And it's because you can try to create an alternate reality about immigrants eating dogs and about criminal aliens. You can create those because people don't know better. But you can't tell them that groceries are cheaper when they go to the grocery store and they still can't buy the things that they want, or prices go up to the point where they have to take stuff out of the shopping cart. And I've used this metaphor a million times on the show and elsewhere, but Democrats have become the party of people who don't look at prices when they go grocery shopping. Like, I throw whatever I want on my cart and I'm good. At the end of it, I would go, "Whoa, that was a lot of money." But it's not like I'm taking stuff out of my cart because I can't afford
Yeah.
to. People
Right.
that voted Trump, they're if those prices are up, they're literally taking stuff out of their cart because they can't afford what's on there. So Trump going on and saying prices are lower is deeply insulting and it's gaslighting. And one of the biggest mistakes, if not the biggest mistake Joe Biden did, and Kamala Harris by extension, is that we sat there and told people that the economic indicators were fine. Lowest inflation in the free world, in the industrialized world, and uh, joblessness is at a all-time record low. Like if you looked at the data, the economy looked pretty good. But people are squeezed, Mark. Just because they have a job doesn't mean they can afford things.
No,
Sometimes
no.
they have two jobs, and then they got to do ride share to make ends meet. And that was the mistake that our ticket did in 2024, is that we did not acknowledge that real pain that a big part of our population, not core Democrats, we Kamala Harris won people making over $100,000 a year easily. She lost those making $50,000 or less by a pretty significant margin for the first time ever, particularly whites. Like black people making less than 50, but like white people making under 50, like Trump won them by like 30, 40 points. It was a
Right.
blowout. And Trump is making the same mistake today. Everything's good. And the stock market record high. It's like if you're taking stuff out of your shopping cart, you don't got anything in the stock market. Like, and these people are genuinely hurting. And this is why Mamdani won. That's why he went from like 2% in the polls to winning the mayoralship in New York City comfortably, beating it Como twice.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that's why he did it. And that's what Democrats are going to do. And Trump doesn't know what to do about it, right? One day he calls it a hoax. Then he's like, thanks to me, credit card rates are only going to be 10%. It's like, no, you can't do that. You can't decree it. Like, if you're serious about it, get your team in Congress to actually do legislation and sign it. He doesn't care. Like, he doesn't actually care about it. He just wants to, he thinks he can keep creating that alternate reality, which has worked so well for him because he has those sycophants that would look the other way if he murdered somebody on 35th Avenue. That's not happening with the economy. He can't do it. Biden
Yeah.
couldn't do it. Trump can't do it. And the more he tries, the angrier they get because they feel that they're being gaslit. And you know how
Yeah.
people are when they're getting gaslit.
Right. 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 No, it's not working. And let's throw in healthcare first of the year
Yeah.
and these higher deductibles that you've got to meet. And if you haven't met the deductible, you can't get your medication.
Hmm.
I'm talking about myself too. That's
Hmm.
real.
Yeah.
So, uh, I'm negotiating that, but there's just nothing. There's no answer for it. So something that doesn't work. I went to Gallup, and a couple things, folks. I couldn't remember her name. The martyr in Charlottesville, the guy drove his car into the crowd, killed her. Heather Heyer, that was her name. I wanted to say her name. Renee Good, Heather Heyer. Say his name, Keith Porter. Um, and there were a number of ICE deaths last year that just weren't covered. Now, Gallup does not break down those who identify as liberals by age, but they do break down those who identify by a certain party identification. Gen Z, those are those born between 97 and 2007, like Marcos and me. Uh, they are only 17% Republican, 27% Democrat, but 56% independent. Millennials, 54% independent, 24% Democrat, 21% Republican. All right.
Yeah.
Marcos and
They
I
didn't,
are,
but they didn't break down the independents because, as Gallup admits, they lean one way or the other. They
yeah,
say they're independent because they don't like the institutions themselves, right? Like,
right, right,
Democratic Party's awful, but they're going to vote for Democrats. So somebody like a Bernie socialist, they'll vote for Democrats on the ballot, but they're not going to
right.
call themselves Democrats. And the same with like Tea Party, MAGA Republicans, who like Republicans are all rhinos. That's why that stat was, I find it kind of useless. But the younger they get, the bigger the chunk of independence.
Yeah,
So
that's real.
yeah,
It goes up with age, y'all.
independence with my scare quotes because because they still lean one way or the other.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. But they didn't identify who amongst the younger people who identifies as liberal. Um,
But I
you
suspect,
know,
yeah, I would suspect that's a big part of that increased spike in liberalism.
So man, we got to talk about this Venezuela and this oil piece. We haven't talked since the invasion, I don't think.
No,
Oh my God. So listen,
not even an invasion. What the frick? It was a kidnapping.
yeah, right, really, really. So did you see when the oil execs went up there the other day? I think
Yeah.
it was Friday, and it was hilarious. And they showed him up. They're like, no, this is
Mm,
not something we can just do. This is not easy.
yeah.
So he kicks the press out of the room and says, let me talk to the geniuses by themselves, like, which is insult, being sarcastic. Now you're an insult to the people, call them geniuses, because he's the only one who's a stable genius.
Yeah, of course.
I have a hypothesis, Marcos Melissas, that behind those closed doors, because he's like this, I think this is his part of his pathology. I'm sure he said, I went and conquered Venezuela and delivered oil to you. Now you got to cut me in. Now, what most people don't think about is, and this makes perfect sense, for those oil execs, they want prices where they want them. If you create an oil surplus, the prices that we pay for gas have to go down. And I'm willing to bet they said, no, one, not only are we not giving you a cut, because you're not in business with us, and you didn't ask us before you did it. Two, you're not helping our bottom line with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, but that fool asked for a cut. What he doesn't do. He's not magnanimous. Why would he do something for oil barons just for the sake of doing it? He wants a cut. All right. And I mean, I think we need to think about it that way.
And I would even step back from that, because this is all theater, and this is what those oil executives knew, right? Because the U.S. does not run Venezuela. We have not conquered Venezuela. The same regime that was in power before are exactly the same people in power today. It's a vice president.
Yeah.
No, nothing has changed. Trump walking around like, I'm now the president, acting president of Venezuela. No, you're not.
No.
No, you are not. There's one person, if you want a regime change, that had credible claim to the presidency, and that's the person who won the last election, whose name escapes me in the moment. But Trump has no interest
the
in her.
Nobel Prize winner. Was that her?
Yeah, that was his Nobel Prize in his mind. So exactly, her. She has a claim. You want a regime change, and he's not even asking for that. There's no regime change. So those oil executives basically said, nothing has changed in Venezuela. It makes no sense for us to invest there.
And folks, to be clear, the defense minister and the minister of interior run a lot of stuff. They still do, and they still have paramilitary wings.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're talking about, I mean, he pardoned. Who was it that he pardoned?
The Honduran president,
yeah, that's who it was.
Yeah, the biggest drug runner in the hemisphere.
And little Marco's family has been involved in drug trafficking. So, and one of the charges against Maduro had to do with one cartel, and they had to drop that charge in court because he had nothing to do with that. And that cartel was one that was actually 60 Minutes revealed years ago was set up and run by the CIA. All right.
Maduro is a piece of crap, right? He is a murderous tyrant. His government is absolutely the worst. No love lost for him. This is not how you do it. They have no case against him. I would not doubt that the guy is knee deep in drug running, because this is kind of the story of Latin America, unfortunately. They're so incompetent they can't even make that case in a preliminary filing in court. I don't know what do they charge them in the end? Some weapons charge that has nothing to do with Venezuela. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. There's a very real chance he gets acquitted, because there's that incompetent and that ideological. This is not how. Like, if you're going to go in and regime change the freaking regime. They didn't even do that. Right. What
but
did
see,
they do?
We had, let me tell you something, Marcos. We had Malcolm Nance on, and we're at almost 1 million views, and he made a very significant point. And I'm not saying that's a reflection on Make It Plain being the greatest show, but it goes to show people are starving for different information other than propaganda. And what Malcolm said was that he cut a deal with the rest of the regime for this theater act. They gift wrapped Maduro for him.
I don't doubt that. Sounds, yeah.
And those guys, he talked about the corruption of the defense minister and the interior minister. The interior minister, not the defense minister, runs a whole paramilitary wing.
Yeah.
And so it's and then you got Maduro. What does he know? He's giving thumbs up in the
Yeah.
mugshot.
Yeah. So if you're an oil executive, literally nothing has changed.
Right. You're right.
So what's there? Who's going to enforce? Yeah. I don't even think Trump can offer those oil fields to them because he doesn't run them. The US, there's no boots on the ground. There's no occupying force.
Yeah, just total theater.
The vice president, he's not swearing fealty to Trump. It's all theater.
Yeah, you're right.
For what?
Lastly,
And I will say one thing.
okay.
In right-wing circles, people are questioning that. So when you talk like all the little death by 1,000 cuts, they're like, what's MAGA about Venezuela? What's MAGA about Greenland? What's, MAGA is in Make America Great. Like, why is he so fixated on these things? What's MAGA about his obsession with Putin? It's not.
And you're arguing for a peace prize and you're bombing everybody.
Yeah. And the threatening war against Iceland. But yeah, you're gonna get it. I wish he truly wanted that peace prize. I still wouldn't think he deserves it, but then at least you'd be like, okay, I'm not gonna be this tyrannical bully. The Supreme Court had to tell him to stop sending National Guard forces into cities. Thank the freaking God.
Yeah.
That was a huge victory. The Supreme Court's like, no, stop being a tyrannical thug. Now he's threatening Greenland. He bombed and kidnapped a foreign leader in Venezuela. No, he's not getting a peace prize. But can somebody tell him, like, sir, remember that peace prize you really want? Maybe we may want to act peaceful.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Lastly, how is Minnesota qualify for the Insurrection Act and not January 6th? I mean, that is, and it's at some point, I think also with the covers, the emperor has no clothes. The clothes are falling off of him, even with the Epstein, because I think after a while, people begin to see, wait a minute, is all of this to distract us from Epstein? DOJ said yesterday, surprisingly, they admitted only 1% of the Epstein files have been
Of
released.
course, they're trying to distract from Epstein.
Yeah. So, I mean, but he's going to invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota when he pardoned an insurrection. Did you see, and Jake Tappan and I aren't friends at all, but he got Christian Nome so good. When she talked about the cops had the right, the ICE agents had the right to do what they did. And he showed video of U.S. Capitol Police being assaulted by January 6 people, insurrectionists, and asked, so by that same argument, Kristi Noem, Miss Homeland lady, would those officers on January 6th have had the right to use the same excessive force? And she obfuscated. You could tell she was not ready for that.
Yeah.
At all. She'll probably y'all just CNN. Kristi Noem's never come back on again because y'all made her look like hell. But man, how is Minnesota an insurrection? I mean, if it is, it's because of the people you sent in there, Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point. Let's say there was a point in Ferguson when we got the report that a majority of people that were out in the streets throwing the Molotovs, fighting with the cops, and the cops fighting back, look very staged. A majority of them weren't even from Missouri, right? And we couldn't account for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want people to understand that's the way these things go down.
I mean, I was really heartened by the Supreme Court's ruling on the National Guard stuff because that starts showing that at least, and it was not close, it was 6-3. Even the conservatives on the court, aside from the sycophants like Alito and Thomas, they're realizing that this administration has gone too far and I would hope that any Insurrection Act declaration would similarly be treated by the Supreme Court, because it's more and more obvious that there's a playbook. Trump has been gunning for this. He didn't get it in LA. He didn't get it in Portland. He's finally getting it in Minnesota. And I've never bought into the theories that there's some unified effort to get the Insurrection Act to cancel elections in November. But he's doing everything possible to prove me wrong, right? He's doing his damnedest to prove me wrong, and so he needs to be stopped. And Mark, I don't understand. I got to tell you, I don't understand how Republicans can sit by and watch this. I mean, just the Iceland stuff. Watch Trump destroy the transatlantic NATO alliance that has kept peace for 40, how many, 80 years, that has generally kept peace for 80 years, how he's throwing it away in the most embarrassing, ridiculous fashion, not over like a real grievance, but because he's got some kind of hang up over Greenland, and that they're not either they don't even have to openly criticize him. They can be like, yo, to his staff, like, you better rein in your boy, or we're going to have to start looking at impeachment or 25th Amendment solutions, because that is unhinged behavior. It's harming America. It's harming them politically. And yet they're sitting there doing nothing about it. They're afraid. Afraid of what? You might lose an election. Who gives a crap? You care about your country?
Yeah.
Because you're going to lose some election anyway.
He's breaking it, y'all. I don't know if anything is going to be. I don't
understand how his own party isn't quietly trying to get him to shut the frick up, because they still hold the White House for 2 years. It's not like 3 years. It's not like they lose the White House.
Right.
Have JD. I mean, JD's horrible, but we'd have troubles with JD. But like, Trump is actively tanking everything. We saw those Gallup numbers. These are 48-40 partisan affiliation right now, Democrat, Republican. That's a wider margin than in 2018, when Republicans got utterly obliterated during Trump's first midterm election. It's going to be worse.
Right.
All those districts that they've redistricted, they're going to lose some of those. They've actually made it easier for Democrats to pick up more seats by making solid red districts less red, to carve out more Republican districts.
That's right. They're going to pay for that. Marcos Melitza's Daily Coast, y'all, the founder. Follow Daily Coast if you're not already. When will we see the app, Marcos?
The app is probably going to be hopefully like summer, fall, but the new version of Daily Coast is coming out in March or April, and on a modern platform. It's going to be great. I'm so excited. And
are your colors and your branding going to change and all that?
Colors and branding don't change. That's
okay, good.
Daily Coast is orange. You don't have to change this. This is still great.
Yeah, I was so envious of Marcos and his son. They were at the Bears game against the 49ers, right?
Yeah, the Niners game here in San Francisco.
And man, your team gives plenty of heart attacks. That last game,
all season, Mark.
Yeah, I know. Coming back, yeah. I mean, I'm happy for him. I admit, folks. We were joking before the show. Marcos said something, and it was a grammatical error. My grandmother was a teacher, a Head Start teacher, and I told him if she had heard him say that, he wouldn't be allowed on the show today.
I'm like, more better.
but then I opened the show talking about Christmas and Harriet Tubman and the Holy Family, Jesus, and then Marcos said the world's going to shit after I talked about Jesus. So she definitely would have. But I don't mind. Happy New Year, my friend. Enjoy the pictures with the kids and everything, y'all. Let's try to make it more better in 2026, y'all. We've got to stay together. Don't give up.
Oh no, we got to kill them dead.
Yeah, and we have to be vigilant. Like I said, Harriet Tubman went back every Christmas for her loved ones and the love. She didn't stop. She didn't get despair. So if back then in the worst of times, didn't nobody have nothing. If they didn't despair,
yep.
Why should we? How can we? We can't be that weak. We
Yep.
have all these creature comforts. We should be even stronger because of all the creature comforts we have. And they have no television, no Netflix, no ability to scroll on Instagram like that. Harriet Tubman would show up and say, let's go. And frankly, anybody who got scared, well, I don't want to go. I might have to tell Massa. She shot him. All right. So I'm not suggesting any of y'all shoot people. but we gotta stay in it, y'all. This is the and let's make the lives of Keith Porter and Renee Good not be lost in vain.
Yep.
All right. Not be lost in vain. What Dr. King's the old spiritual. If I can help somebody along the way, then my living will not be in vain. Let's make that our vow in 2026. Marcos, appreciate you, buddy.
You too. Thanks so much. Happy New Year's to everybody.